At setup, this golfer's a little too upright. We'd like to get his spine bent a little bit more than he has right there. More like about that angle there. So get him a little more tilted forward, get his hips tilted down on that angle there. It's going to give him a better shot at getting a good setup. What we have here is the arms and golf shaft make too straight of a line, unless, of course, he's doing that on purpose, but then it would be much higher. So let's watch the takeaway. See what happened there? Right away, because of his position, his triangle breaks down. Right now, it's completely broken down. The left arm is moved away from the right arm, or the right arm away from the left arm, and he's moved his hands a long way, and there's not much turn. You can see there's the old baseball-style grip. It's not even used anymore in baseball. We keep the knuckles in line in baseball. Now he's got a big separation of his elbows, and he's going to come well over the top and down on it. And now you can see that the club shaft is well above the plane. The actual plane at this point is that way. We want the shaft to be parallel to the trail forearm. You can see he's not anywhere near that position right there. And he pulls away from the shot because he's not able to rotate into it and kind of falls backwards. So we're going to get him to rotate his hips more, rotate those hips right around like that, and keep those arms nice and long and work a little bit on the plane. I'd also like to see him work on his grip, but he's pretty well committed to that older style baseball grip. We have a new golfer here. We'd like to see is maybe the chin up a little bit, not so hunched over, and the hands on the forward side of the golf ball. That's the hands on that side of the golf ball. And the shoulders need to be tilted a little bit on this angle here, because the right hand is lower than the left hand, so the right shoulder needs to be a little lower than the left shoulder. And what we'll end up with is a little bit of a spine tilt away from the target line on that line right there. Let's go ahead and watch the takeaway. Trying to get comfortable there, building the triangle nice with their arms. But see, right away, the triangle breaks apart right there. Then the club goes too far behind her, and she lifts right up. Now she's going to come back down to the golf ball, try to recreate a triangle. Not bad, a little broken down on the left side. There, it really breaks down. That's why the club bounces off the ground. It's because she's not rotating into the shot at all. There's no rotation to the hips that way. This golfer needs to get his hips shifted that direction a little bit. What's happening is he's kind of tilting in the wrong direction here at setup. We'd like to see his spine more behind the ball so that his hands could be a little straighter. Notice that the shaft kind of runs up the trail arm. We'd like to see it running more up the lead arm. Let's watch what happens on the takeaway there. Early lifting. A couple of practice takeaways, try to get a feel for where he wants to be. Let's see what he does here. Not bad, nice and soft hands. Good rotation. There he's casting the club. You can see already that the head of the club is trying to pass his hands real early. That's that dominant right hand trying to flip the club up underneath, breaks down the left elbow, creates the chicken wing, doesn't allow us to keep turning the club through the shot or turning the hips through the shot. At this point now we want to see the knees be coming together a little bit here and really power into the shot. He does get to a nice finish, but it's out of sequence. This is a pretty good setup. The grip is very strong, probably stronger than it needs to be, but that's becoming more and more popular. And let's see if it helps her keep her arm nice and straight on the way back. See that now? Notice how much the hands have moved, and we watch the zipper on the front of her jacket there isn't turning very much at all compared to how much the arms are turning. We want to try to move the triangle we create, this triangle right there. We want to try to move that in one piece. That means we move the shoulders of that whole structure of the triangle in one piece, and we're not quite doing that here on the takeaway. She gets behind the ball nicely, got a little foot movement, but she stood up, so we need to get her butt pointing around a little bit more behind her so she can get the good leverage, and we'll see her drive down into the shot. There's no leg action here at all. We're not seeing much leg pushing the shot through, and again we get to the typical amateur close into the body, impact position, and then no extension down the line, and the hips have not rotated through. Here we see a pretty good setup with the face-on view. With another golfer, we talked about getting the shoulders tilted there. You can see the shoulder tilt, a little bit of the K shaping of the body. We take the letter K and we draw the line down here, and there's the letter K kind of coming out that way. We want to see that in a good setup. Let's watch the takeaway here. Problem is, see, there's a lifting more than a swing away. It's a lift away. Notice how the hands are coming up pretty abruptly. The whole head is lifting, and we're not getting enough width on the backswing. We want the swing to go back on a circle. So let's go ahead and put a circle in here. We want it to go back on that circle, and we'll see that what happens is it comes way up inside that circle. See how it's inside the circle? It collapses in, and then it stays. And he casts a little bit there. Pretty decent. If we just get a little tighter triangle right there and rotate the hips from right now, really rotate the hips hard into the shot, we'll see a much better result. Okay, we see a pretty good setup here. Let's watch the takeaway. Starts back. His arms are moving a little faster than his chest is turning. If we can time that a little better. See, now his arms are moving a lot more than his chest is turning. And what's restricting his shoulder movement is he hasn't turned his hips enough yet. Let the hips turn about 20, 25 degrees. These haven't turned at all. Now he's coming back down to the ball. And because there's been no hip coil going back, it's really hard to get anything going forward. So the hips don't rotate till considerably after impact. And they're rotating about the same speed as the hips. We like them to, as the shoulders. We want the hips to get there first, so the hips right here should be wide open. Notice how close the club face is. If you look at it, you can see that it's pointing way off to the left. The club head is passing the hands real early. There's no club leg. Then he's going to turn it over and pull it left. This is a wide power setup. What we'd like to see here is this golfer really drive his legs into that yellow line. And what we're going to see is that doesn't happen. He stays kind of on the yellow line and doesn't drive in until much after impact. I'd like to see him, as he's coming in right about there, to really have shifted his whole lower body, maybe even the right knee, almost all the way to that line. Just really push hard. Notice the left leg isn't doing anything. It's posted up. We want that left leg to kind of flex too into the shot. That'll keep him hitting so fat. Great extension down the line, great athleticism, just a little timing issue with the legs. May want to do a few practice swings with the feet real close together to get a little more feeling of what those legs should be doing. You'll see that a lot with some of your better golfers. They'll practice with their feet almost touching just to get the balance positions. Okay, what we're going to watch is how centered around the initial pivot angle does he stay as he swings the golf club. We don't want to see a lot of sway off the yellow line. On the way back, you see his body sways quite a bit off the yellow line, and his hips rotate almost as much as his arms and hands did, and shoulders. We'd like to see about less than half of that rotation of the hips. Then what's going to happen is he's going to try to pull the head down to the ball. See how there's that immediately, that's what we call an over-the-top move here, where now the head is diving out past the yellow line. He has no choice now but to kind of scoop it out of the ground because he's coming in so steep. Where if he kept his head back behind the yellow line, he'd be able to extend down the line and turn the hips into the shot. So we want him to stay on that side of the yellow line. We talk a lot about plane and trying to keep the club moving on a consistent plane that's basically set up as the shaft angle. We have a golfer here that goes dramatically to the inside. See that? Way back to the inside of the plane. So he's well under the plane on the way back, but then he stays under the plane and pretty well through it on the way forward. And we learn from guys like Mo Norman and Jimmy Furyk, people like that, that it's the moment of truth that really counts. So if he's able to rotate through the shot, keep the club moving out to the right like that, see how the club head is still out to the right? That's really a pretty good swing. So what we did is we took a look at that inside-out, outside-in takeaway and made sure he had an inside-out follow-through on the downswing, and he does that really well. It's not ideal, and it's not picture perfect, but it's good enough for golf. We have a good setup here, a good spine angle, club shafts at a good angle. Let's see what happens on the takeaway. This golfer's been struggling with an over-the-top move at the top of the backswing. I don't have this on a tripod, but you can see right away that he's taking the club a little too far to the inside on the way back. Then he's going to get well above the white line, and then see how he straightens right up. Right there, his arms are straight, and is over the top of the swing, having to flip the club over to keep it from going hard to the right. And he ends up way up and out of his spine angle. At this point now, his head should still be on that yellow line. We're going to see an unconventional swing here, but sometimes unconventional works. Ask any of the players that played against Arnold Palmer. It was not exactly a conventional swing. It's a great setup, good posture. What she's going to do is kind of almost a Mo Norman type folding the arms to the top. But look how straight up and down she manages to stand. Now here's some good athleticism. She's able to fly right back down to the ball again and make good contact. Look at her impact position is almost exactly where she was at setup and right on through the ball. A little tiny short follow through, but it works for her. She hits the ball pretty solid. I'm not going to change that. We're just going to have her get better at what she does. Let's see how well this golfer stays on his swing plane. There's our plane that we're looking at. Pretty good. See, he's staying on or above the swing plane, head staying nice and still. Now see if he drops it back down underneath the plane. See, from this position here, we want the hands to come straight down. They come out a little bit. See, they're coming out just a little bit. Not a bad move. Pretty decent upper body movement. Not a lot of lower body rotation. That's why he doesn't get all the way up to show us his spikes. Good top half of the swing.